all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
I can't hear anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Paranormal Portal. I hope you guys are doing wonderful. Thanks for being here, and we're sorry for the late start. I just actually came off of an interview just a few minutes ago, and so I quick hit the ground running and got all set up and ready to go for our show tonight. But we are here. Don't worry one bit. We wouldn't forget about this. So I hope you guys are doing good. Happy Hump Days Eve. It is the marching onward towards the weekend. So, Don, are you live?
I should be.
You should be, but you're not.
What's wrong?
I don't know. Like whatever's always wrong. Try
How's that? Does that work?
That does.
Hey!
Was the microphone actually turned off?
Yeah, apparently so. Hey!
Well, I just got the studio reassembled as well because it was my little minion's third birthday. So the third birthday, and he's, well, of course, I needed all the tables I could get for all of the people that showed up. So,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, so actually your table was gone downstairs, and there was food on it, but
Oh, and it was good food, too.
it was good food. Yeah, it was a good time. But ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're doing wonderful. Thanks so much for being here with us. So many of you are already showing up here on Facebook. This is our Facebook-only stream on Wednesday. And we hope you enjoy our show. And we got a special treat for everyone tonight. Joining us is a good friend of both Don and myself and a fellow Northern Idahoan, Mrs. Cindy Goodbrake. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Hey, how are you?
We are doing wonderful, and it's about time you got back on the show here. Ladies and gentlemen, Cindy was on the show, God, how long ago was it?
It's a while.
Was it a year?
Oh, I don't know. Over a year. God, that's crazy. Yeah, since we got together. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? It's like, I love having you on, and it's great that we finally were able to coordinate this and make it happen again. But how's things in your world?
Oh, well, when you called me and I was out of breath, it's because it's like it's quiet here. It's like I told my kid, don't bother me. My husband is, I told him, okay, I'm gonna be on the air with my friends. So yeah, it's not easy for me to find 2 hours to talk to somebody, but yeah, it's all good. It's hot, Brent. I can't believe it's hot. Is this Texas?
I don't know what it is.
I can't believe this.
It's been a real heat wave up here, yeah. And Cindy literally lives in the same area we do, so we've been kind of going through a heat wave here, and it's been baking hot. I know the fire risks are climbing fast as well, aren't they? For the forests.
Oh yeah. And I was telling my husband, hey, I want to have y'all over, and he's like, oh, no big fires. So I'm assuming we can have a little campfire, that we can.
Oh, sure.
Sit around. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we can, figure out when y'all can come over to my house, and we'll stay up all night. And I have to look at the moon patterns.
Oh,
okay. Like depending what nights, I know I'll probably get more of a sound, or it can also happen like on any given night as well. It's crazy.
Sure. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you hadn't gotten it from the title, Cindy is also an established and well-regarded Bigfoot researcher and investigator, has been doing this for literally decades. She's been hitting the field and looking into the phenomena that is Bigfoot, and she's, of course, had the pleasure and awesome experience of being able to work with some of the legendary names in the business. So you've really done it all.
Oh, well, it's funny. Well, I hate to sound like, it's kind of funny when you say that, because it really is crazy, because it just seems like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And here we are. But yes, I was lucky enough to learn from some of the best in the beginning, and, some of those I call family still, so I'm really lucky.
Yeah. And you of course have been, you've gone with Don and I when we found I guess we first met you. I guess we can go into the little bit of a history here. We first met you when you put on the little meet and greet in the area here talking about Bigfoot. And of course, Don and I heard about it and went, oh yeah, we're going. So, and that was we bumped into you, and that was really cool.
That was so funny, because what was the first thing I asked you?
I mentioned the first thing she wanted to know was I a member of the press, and I was like, no.
I was gonna kick you out.
Yeah, you screened me, but I did say, look, I got the show, and you're like, wait a minute, are you a member of the press? And I'm like, no. I like the paranormal.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I didn't want.
Yeah.
No, but it was all good. And the place that we had it at, the Brickell Creek Coffee and Spirit Lake, they were so busy. They actually, I think they were filled to capacity as far as like
nice.
What could be, who could, the number of people, which might have been like 35 or 40 in that back room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty tight in there.
Which is, oh yeah, I know, but they had some really good sales, so I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was a really neat experience. And it was, of course, a pleasure to meet you, and then we have met, and you've actually gone out with Don and I when we were called in on that structure that, of course, we investigated, and that was really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really, really, it was huge.
Right.
If you can find pictures, man, you should post them up on them.
Actually, I guess we could
do we
could do a little bit of the reveal of that tonight.
Oh.
This would be a perfect night for it. So
I
yeah,
think Pixie's been waiting for that.
Yeah, we can. And we, ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, I have a really quick question for you. Because I have to close it down. Can I not have the YouTube and watch the show at the same time? Or probably not, because it sounds it's behind. Right? So I probably shouldn't.
if you turn the volume down,
off.
yeah. If you turn the volume down on your
Okay, all right,
computer,
got
you should be fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm just looking here. What do I have for this? But ladies and gentlemen, what had happened that night, and Don was contacted by a homeowner who had 30 chickens, and noticed basically that there was a bit of a hole in his pen, and that homeowner was down to 9 chickens, and they weren't sure what was going on. There was no feather fluff or anything from like a coyote or a fox. When a coyote or a fox attacks a chicken, of course, they'll disable it right away, and which, leaves quite a confetti of feathers. But there was nothing of that kind of sign around, but these chickens just kept systematically disappearing. They find the hole in the pen, and then it wasn't until they finally started walking a little bit of the woodland surrounding their property that they bumped into this huge structure that was it was absolutely amazing. And I'm going to get some pictures up here so that you can see that. But we'll get into that a little bit more when I got some proof. But it was really great because having the contact like Cindy and of course, Glenn Meyer as well, who's a friend of yours and has become a friend as well. he came up and investigated with us and checked it out, and it was really something.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that a little bit more. But Cindy, I want you to take a moment and tell people about your journey a little bit. Where did this all begin?
Oh my gosh. Well, I saw the Patterson Gimlin film when I was little, and it scared me so bad that I never liked the woods. I never wanted to go camping or anything like that. And it's not like we went camping, but I mean, it just terrified me and I don't know, I had always, in 1998, when the internet was coming around, I was able to hook up with some people like, the outlaws, the Bigfoot outlaws, and Jim King. He's like my brother. Y'all know him as Bear, and I also learned a lot from a lot of the other ones there, and I researched with them for a couple of years until I had to move up north. So I have a million stories of the southern states.
Right. Yeah. You did a lot of field work down there.
So just ask what you want to know.
Right.
Well, you wrote us that little write-up that you did for us. Tell us about when you moved here in 2004 and how you got set up and how you found what you found in your area.
So from like 1999, I guess, I kind of met, hooked up with some people. Actually, another legendary name in the Bigfoot world is Luke Gross. And the Texas Bigfoot Research Organization is something really huge now. But back in the day, I had met up with Luke, and he took me out the woods and showed me animal tracks and, calls. And then eventually I hooked up with different people that I had met online and different groups. But I was lucky enough to hook up with, like Bear and Kumbo, Vicky and Dan and all those guys, that are known today as the Bigfoot Outlaws. And I don't even have to say who some of those guys are there, just in this field. They know a lot. So I learned a lot from them, and I researched in East Texas quite a bit. And Kenobi, Oklahoma. Oh my gosh, we have to come back and talk about southeastern Oklahoma. And we would take our horses there, and also in Mississippi, and East Texas is. We can probably talk about that a little. That whole area there, a lot of them are really aggressive, and then I moved up here in 2004 with my family and the military, and I was lucky enough by chance my husband found a home on some acreage, and I live in, off of the mountain where there's, in a valley here, and there's a lot of activity here. I live in a town called Blanchard,
Mm-hmm.
and the mountain itself is called Hoodoo, and it was named by the Native Americans. And I could sit here and tell you stories, things that I have learned since, on the history of this area. For example, the next town over is called Spirit Lake, and that has a whole story behind it. So when we moved up here, the house, which is on a couple of acres, maybe under 6, I noticed right away there was a game trail, and I found structures. And of course, my children were young at the time, and so I didn't have a lot of time to just get out and just go research. Plus, I didn't know a lot of people here. But this was a whole different ballgame, because where I came from, there actually was a lot of Bigfoot activity where I lived east of Dallas.
Mm.
But I never really took advantage of that area like up here where I live, because I do a lot of audio recordings that I study.
Mm-hmm.
But when I moved here, over the years, I discovered what was going on in some signs like the structures And I think I've told you different stories that we could probably go into later.
Sure.
And in October of 2004, I had been already talking with some of the local sheriff's departments, and we had horses. So I had talked with some of the ranchers where we got the hay from. And like the sheriff said that they had a report. It was actually out of, I think it was the state police out of Athol, which is down the road, or Highway 54, that a officer was driving down the road because he had a report of some kind of creature in the area. And supposedly he saw something cross the road, and he actually wrote up a report. And I think it's on the DFRO website, but it's like in the 90s or the early 2000s. But if you look at Bonner County on the BFRO reports, you can read about it.
Uh-huh.
So in October, I took a neighbor, and so I've ridden up and down my mountain now a couple of times. So I kind of know it, but I went up on one side of the mountain with my friend who had an interest in this, and I told her what I wanted to do, what I was trying to accomplish, and I wanted her that she kind of just had to come along for the ride, but not to, she had to be patient, because you can be out all night and you might or you might not hear something,
Right.
So I mean, it's a lot of time and energy, and you have to just really be patient, because it's annoying sometimes when you want to go out and you get nothing. But so we went up on one side of the mountain. I went up maybe not even 6 miles up, and I figured it was maybe 10 miles or 11 from my house. Now I realize that, and back then it felt like I had driven very far away, and I had made some calls. Now, when I came up here fresh from Texas, I had some very specific calls that I had learned from Bear and all those guys. But of course we didn't hear anything, or for like 15 minutes, which really is nothing. But it was clear we were not going to be able to stay on the mountain there, because my friend was saying, well, come on and make another call. And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. I shouldn't even be doing this.
Right.
But so what we did is we went to the other side of the mountain, and this was October 2004. I remember because it was cold, and my husband was kind of complaining because it was really late. He was like, where are you going? So I went to the other side with her and made the same calls. So what happened was, within 10 minutes from where we were, I could hear all of them coming. It was a whole chorus of it, like the whole clan was just coming. And we had experienced that before in East Texas. Actually, I was not there with the people that I researched with, but they had in that same encounter where I think they made a distress call, and they had the same kind of reaction. And then within a couple of minutes, they were like right on top of us. And I was like, oh my gosh. I ended up deciding to leave because I heard, like, it must have been, I don't know, the alpha male or the alpha female. I have no idea. But it was a very loud, distinct roar. So we hopped in my Jeep, and I came back down the mountain to my house, which kind of was a big no-no, because I'm pretty sure that they followed me home, because I just have, since 2004, I've had a lot of activity happen here.
Right.
And my husband, who was in the military, he was gone quite a bit, and we had horses. So another thing that I noticed that would happen up here would be what we call like horse braiding, or not horse braiding, but just it looks kind of scrunched up. It's not like a braid that you actually braid. Have you seen pictures of that?
Yeah, it's more like a twisting kind of with the hair.
Yeah, and so probably like in 2004, my oldest was 8 or 9. I think he was 8. Well, anyway, we were out there. The horses, I was watering the horses, and it was morning time. I went out there, and I noticed that the horses' tails were kind of, like messed up. And I looked, and the tail was parted. And I had seen that before in East Texas. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, because when I was in East Texas, we had 9 horses at one time. And I remember one of the horses and how the tail was divided and how the mane was kind of like bunched up and like messed up. And I had found out later that they call that some kind of like braiding.
Right.
So we also found footprints close to the water tank, and my son came out and he saw it, and then I covered it up. And then it started raining, and I uncovered them because I didn't really cast anymore, and I don't really research that way anymore. So
Sure.
a million stories I can tell you about stuff that's happened up here. That was in 2004. And then in 2005, my husband's unit got called to go to Iraq. And then I think it was summertime sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband received a phone call from his boss, and it's basically like the chain of command. So that was a phone call I did not want to get, of course. I mean, who wants their husband, anyone to go to Iraq or Afghanistan? So
Right.
I handed him the phone, and I went outside, and it was dark. It was a little cool, but I fed the horses, and I could see through the backyard. I was standing in back of like what I call my shack barn.
Okay.
And I could see him on the phone, and I was very sad. And I had noticed a couple of weeks earlier that we had been missing some feed.
Oh.
And I found it like at the edge of the property, which maybe the horse got it.
Uh-huh.
That's possible. But I saw some more like where we had kept our feed bags. It was kind of like leaned over, and it was kind of spilled.
Ooh.
And I thought, okay, that's weird, because the horse could not have got to where it was stored, which was inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked around the back of the building, and it's not a very big building. It's kind of open. It's like an open structure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was upset, so I was crying a little bit because I just.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I don't like to talk about it.
No.
But I heard a weird noise coming from the woods, which I can only describe as like a cooing noise. And I've heard that before when we had been out in the field, and I came to the backyard where it was more lit, and then I heard a roar coming off the mountain. And then I came in the house, and my husband was off the phone already, and then my phone rang, and it was my neighbor. They also had animals, and they had been outside feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also played recordings for them, and they had heard some of the sounds that I had, and examples.
Mm-hmm.
And so she called me, and she said, "Was that what I thought it was?" And I said, "Yeah, that was just a regular howl." And so that was, I think, like 2005, and then 2006 we were gone for a year, and then he retired out of the military. And then from 2007 until now, it's kind of escalated with different things that have happened, and we had periods that were dormant and periods that were not, where there was a lot of activity. But it seems like this last 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
it's been like ongoing, like all the time. It's like I've been really paying attention to like some of my audio recordings. That's where I've learned a lot.
Right. Yeah, and you've got some amazing recordings now. With the grain being spilled and stuff, do you think that they had become habituated to you leaving grain at that point? And what did anything happen when you moved it or changed that?
Well, we normally didn't keep it there,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember where, because we had like this. I'm trying to think. We didn't normally keep it there,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a reason. We had unloaded some alfalfa hay or something, and I really can't remember, but without really thinking, we had just put the feed there, but it was only there for a short time.
Oh, okay. Good.
And then we kept it wherever, I think it was in the, not like in the shop type thing, because it was a lot of work to just get the feed and then to walk along, period. So, but obviously stuff like that you has to be under, because the other rodents and stuff can't get into it. But no, I really can't think that far back where we normally kept it, but it wasn't normally there. But sometimes I would get lazy and just take the whole bag out there.
Right.
Well, I mean, so, but that's pretty much it. And, I don't really believe in, that you should feed them or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
So they were coming around long before that.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So they have quite a range then around your house, and when you called them, you kind of gave yourself a beacon and said, "Here I am."
Yeah, it's like I was talking with Bear, because technically I should not have done that.
Sure.
And there were some things that I did not realize. Probably they told me, but it didn't help me till later. In the later years that I was here. Mm-hmm. That there's so much activity. It's not just in this area. Up there in Sandpoint,
Yeah.
up there in, what's that town? Moy Springs,
Moy.
Bonner Square. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this area here is just a hotbed. So it's hard to tell where, one area would start and one would stop, if that even exists. I've always wondered about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, I have a clan here. And I know, like, in the months of March, April, and May, that is when things just go, like, really crazy around here.
Really? Okay.
Like that howl that I sent you guys, or it's not a howl, it's more like a roar, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And when I play that, you might have trouble hearing it because for some reason my Skype doesn't carry the sound with it back to you. But if when we play that, if you turn up your stream volume on your computer, you'll be able to hear it with a little bit of delay. But I'm gonna try. I think I've got it queued up to right when the good part starts, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me know when you want to play that, and we can certainly give it a shot.
Okay. Well, I don't have this set. Well, let's see if I have it up, because if you want to play it now, you can, and then we can go into that.
Okay, but you may not
I just
hear
won't
it.
hear it.
Yeah, you're not going to hear
fine.
anything. But let me see if this will work, ladies and gentlemen. And it's just a sound file, so there's nothing to see. Or I thought it was. Never mind. I got to cue it back up. Damn it, I had it open. Okay. I'm just going to cue through it here so you can find the good part.
Ooh.
There it is.
Yeah. That's definitely it.
Yeah. And you can hear it resonating through the valley as it's going. It's just really powerful.
Okay. Is it still playing?
Yeah, it's still playing. Hold on.
Yeah.
We got a good one.
Okay. Okay, and that's
yeah.
that's pretty powerful, yeah. And it sounds like
and
like that.
that, yeah, it was crazy. And the funny thing about that was that, so that was, the moon patterns were, so I have 2 recordings, Friday and Saturday, and I think that one that you have is Saturday night.
Okay.
And I have another one that I tried to send to y'all that I couldn't get it sent over for some weird reason.
Okay.
But that one is even scarier because it has like just a growl, and that was very close, and it was barking at my dog. At first I thought it was a distant dog, but it's not. It's I have a lab, and I have a Siberian Husky. And so I recorded both nights. Friday night, I actually had forgotten, and I put it outside like 1 in the morning. And this was March the 2nd and 3rd, the second weekend of March, the Friday and Saturday. I have to go look at the calendar and when the moon patterns were, because I think it was either the day before the full moon or it was the night of, on both those nights. But that one that you heard, it was on Saturday, and I think it was like around 11 o'clock. And I have another recording of something closer the night before, and it just sounds very, very terrifying. And I have played that for a lot of people. People like who don't believe, and like hunters, and they would actually, kind of say, "Whoa, there's no such thing as," and I was like, "Okay, well then what's this?" And so I played it for a couple of people, and you should have seen their faces.
I bet.
What is that? I said, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a Sasquatch, maybe it's something else. I don't know, but it's not something you've ever heard, right? And no, and I kind of went through the checklist, and I did have somebody cut that out for my original file, but I have so many nights because that's my thing is audio recording. So, of course, it's a long file, and I'll upload it to my computer, and a lot of the times when I record all night, I will try to hear it within a couple of days because I just don't have the time to sit here, so I start it and I'll come back to it. And I really never thought about, I would be sharing these with a lot of people. Like on my Facebook page, I'll share them with people. So I'm really bad about, making notes or staying organized. So I'm trying. But that recording, my son, he's 15 now, my youngest, he's 15, and he is your typical kid that likes to dirt bike ride and ATV, and where I live here, I can see Coogee Mountain. And you can just take off from my house here and go down the logging roads, and, there's just trails and trails up there. So he likes to camp out, and he likes to ride his dirt bike and his ATV, his whole life. So we have rules that we have established, because if it was up to me, I just would not let him leave the property period. And I sure as heck wouldn't want him to spend the night anywhere. But a couple of nights ago, he did go camping with a friend, and it turned out that his friend could not stay. So he spent the night in the woods by himself, and I had a cow
I bet.
the next day because
Yeah.
I had a cow, but he's fine, and I just that is like one of the things right now that I just really stress out about. But life doesn't stop. So, but I can tell you some things that have happened to him, and so a couple of summers ago, he was camping. He took our ATV, and he went down the road here a couple of miles, and there's like this private lake or this, I don't know, kind of like a pond or something. It's very popular. It's very popular with people here in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So they were camping, and they heard some splashing around, but it wasn't like, small animal. It was something heavy. And then at some point in the night, my son, this is how he described it. Something huge threw something. He said it sounded like a piano landed in shallow water, like
Wow.
like something very heavy could land at the edge of the water there. And they were so scared. But did they call me? No, they did not call me. They had their lights on. And they had their flashlights, and they kept scanning the area there. And eventually they lost their lights went off and died. And he came home and told us, and I'm sure I had a cow at that time too. And I am just thinking, oh my gosh. So they had some kind of encounter at that time. And we have this, so my son, like I said, he likes to ride, and he was out with some friends, and this was October. This is a couple of Octobers ago.
Mm-hmm.
He found a print, and I think I sent that to you, Don. Do you have it?
I was trying to find that. I know I've got the bent trees that you sent me. I thought I had seen the other one. I don't know where that one went, so I'll have to find that again. But let me
Okay.
let me see what I can do. But yeah,
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
So he found this print. Now, did he come home and tell me that he found this print? No, he told me 2 weeks later. But my family is not like Bigfoot. They could care less. So I can't talk to them about it. So my husband just acts like who's that? I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my children don't really like to, talk about Bigfoot. So of course he did not come home and tell me till 2 weeks later. I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me? I could have gone, But he had a picture of it, and he had his boot beside it, and it could be a young one,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a really good picture. And if you can't find it, maybe I can find it here and send it to you, or I can put it up on my Facebook page. And then, but it was, and he found that not too far down the road, by the lake, by Blanchard Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really surprised because it's, where a lot of people go fishing. But, of course, October, the water goes down. So that was just, I'm glad that he took a picture, because obviously he didn't tell me about it right away.
Right.
And so he's had enough encounters, things that, like that scared them a couple of years ago. And another night, him and his friends were hanging out here in our RV because they're teenagers. They like to go in there and play video games or whatever. So they were standing outside, and the property across from me it's all woods. My acreage is woods, and so is a lot of the properties around here, and then eventually it goes up the mountain. So they were outside, and it was cold. It could have been March of this year. So around the time that I took that recording, I think it was the following, March. It was 2 weeks later because it was spring break. That's how I remember. They were outside. I did not have my audio recorder out that night. And they came in and they said, "Mom, something's across the street." You know, it could have been further out. But they just said it sounded like something was like breathing hard or maybe like resting hard. Right. I walked outside with them and I didn't hear anything. So it must have stopped, which I thought was very interesting. And then a couple of nights later, they went walking. Now, where I live here, you know, I told you it's all woods and things like that. And if you walk far enough, you can be walking like down logging roads, probably where it isn't safe, like especially at night, you know, it's cold out. But they came in because they heard, you know, the typical, like, you know, not siren sound, but just like a call, you know, like it's out hunting. Right. And so that's probably, you know, what was happening. And so they kind of said, "Okay, we're going to turn around and go back home," even though it sounded very far off. Right. So he's pretty aware and he can recognize, you know, a lot of the sound, but he likes to go up and do, and it just really terrifies me. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I will be so happy when he is 18 and he doesn't want to camp anymore. You know, he wants to go do something else. Hey,
Hey, Brent, wow.
Yeah, your mic is goofing up.
Hey, can you post that picture of the footprint?
Oh, sure.
She just mentioned that. So.
Yeah, I'll put that up.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know when you're ready to turn back on. Let me get the picture up there so people can see what we're talking about here. Because...
Is something wrong with me talking, you said?
No, with Don's microphone. Don's microphone is kind of fuzzy, so... Okay, go ahead. Okay, ready to try it? Okay, try it.
Yeah, I think that sounds better. So I did find that picture of the footprint with your son's boot in it. We're putting that up now.
Yeah, it's on screen right now. So
yeah.
Okay, well, let me try to put this back up again. Well, I'm going to bring it up again, but yeah. So that was, let's see, 2018, 17, 16. That might have been 2015 or 2014.
Now, was this when
15, 12.
Was this when you were telling us he was camping by himself, or was this the time that he heard the splashing?
No. That picture, I'm trying to bring it up here. I might not. When he found that footprint, he was out riding his dirt bike with a friend.
Oh, right.
That day. And but where they had that encounter with the splashing and then where something really scared them, it was just around. It was by that area, but like further, you know, down.
Right.
But it was in the same area, so.
Wow.
That print, yeah. So that's a pretty good print, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, when you look at the length of the foot is striking. What size is your son's shoe?
9.5.
9.5. So that's a good.
Oh God, yeah, that's
4 or 5 inches longer than that.
That's a good 13, 14.
Yeah. And then, but not only that, but you look at the width of the foot, especially at the heel, and that is well beyond normal measurement. That's a good, 5 inch, 4.5, 5 inch, across, at least.
Now, if he would have told me, I could have gone and I could have
casted it.
Probably casted it, even though, because around that time I was kind of coming around again, because my research, if you even want to call it that, I hate to call it that, because now where I live, it's not about research, and I have a lot of people call me, like in spurts, and I'll talk to them I will talk to them on the phone about their situation. I really don't get out like what I used to. I kind of just, because I have a lot, like with just here where I live, I have taken reports over the years, and I have one really good one to tell you. But so I really haven't casted. You know, that's not something I really got into. But you know, this lake, Blanchard Lake, it's a private lake, and if you want to go on it, you have to, like, the owners have a house there, and you have to sign in.
Oh, wow.
They pretty much know everyone that goes. But that whole area is not just for everyone, you know, just to come on wherever you want.
Right.
So they were camping at this different area. So, yeah, so him and his friends have had some other things happen. They'll go walking, they'll hear something, they'll come back. They're outside hanging out by a campfire, and they'll hear things across the street. So, from 2006 to 2007, we were gone. I'm going to kind of step back in time here, because I was kind of trying to stay like on a timetable of events.
Sure.
So my husband retired out of the military, and a lot was involved at that time. You have to, like, tell him all this stuff. You know, they, like, rate you. So my husband had surgery, 2008. Well, he was in bed. It was July of 2008, and he was laying in bed, and the window was open. And I was in the living room with the kids, and we were watching TV. Well, my husband goes, "Hey, what's that noise?" And I go, "What noise?" And I go to the bedroom, because I have my window shut because we're watching TV. And if I'm going to check on the horses, I have to open the sliding glass door. So I went to the other side of the house, and he was laying in bed because he had neck surgery. And I said, "What?" And he said, "I heard like a cooing noise."
Oh.
And I thought, really interesting. So now you have another cooing, you know. So now you have another event that has happened. You know, he's had surgery. And yes, I was very stressed out because, you know, we had horses and chores, and I was outside, and I'm sure I, you know, was walking around and, you know, just all worried. And because I believe that they have watched, not just me, but they know the area. They know who lives where.
Right.
So he heard that same sound. So I opened up the glass door, my sliding door, and I looked outside, and I tried to see the horses because it was late. And, you know, they're not normally at the front of the property, but I did see them there, but they were fine. They weren't, like, you know, all acting up or, you know, doing anything different. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. So, you know, that's weird. He heard that. So the next couple of years were kind of just dormant because I just really didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
You know, like, if you pretend, you know, like they're not there. If you pretend they're not there, then they aren't there. You know, they kind of, if you lose interest, the action around your house kind of, like, stops for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Or I just purposely
blocked it out.
Did not pay attention. Yeah, because, I mean, it got to be a little bit too much. And before my husband retired, one morning I was sitting in my living room, and I can see from the couch out to the sliding glass door into my woods, and I saw something run through the woods, and it wasn't a deer, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think it was summertime, so it was bright outside, but it was kind of gray, and I ran to the door to look outside, but of course, you know, it passed by, and he was gone that whole weekend, and when he would be gone is when things would happen around here. Like, I would hear a lot of howls. You know, I heard him when he was here also, but when he was gone, especially like on his military weekends. And one time he was gone for like 4 to 6 weeks, and he went to Europe or something.
Wow.
And I got a report from a friend, I think in 2006, 2000, beginning of 2006, I can't remember. But her husband was coming home off of Highway 95, and you know where Silverwood is?
Yeah, you're talking about Brunner Road. I used to live on Brunner
Yes.
Road.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Really?
I used to live 2 miles behind Silverwood.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you are coming and heading north and you go down Brunner Road, so back then, if you look at the pines, they are small, like baby pines. If you at that time that they were baby pines. So now today, because my son works, in that area, so I drive there and I noticed that, and it just freaked me out how tall the pines were, and it made me think of that story because now I do that drive like almost every day. So the story goes is that, and this is a personal face-to-face story, and he was shaking and he was terrified.
Right.
Wow.
And I had to almost convince him gently to tell me the story. So my neighbor who lives a couple of acres over, she has a daughter and her husband. He was coming home from work on Brunner Road, and he passed the first tracks, then he came to the second tracks, and then he saw a child run across the road, and he slammed on his brakes. And it ran to a home across the street, and then this creature in broad daylight in the afternoon came, and it stopped in the middle of the road, and it just looked at him. And he thought, oh my gosh, is this a person in a costume?
Right.
Because he does not, this is not something that he would normally, but it just looked at him, and it had this look on its face like it was sad, like, where are you going? So it must have been a young Sasquatch.
Right.
And it kind of just turned around and went back into the young pine growth. And he just could not believe it. And I remember I asked him, did it drop down on all fours? And he, just said, I don't know. It just kind of hunkered back down, and it went back to where it came from. And he came home, and he told his wife because he was distraught. And she goes, what happened? And she said, well, let's call Cindy. And he did not want to tell me. And I said, hey, I'm not going to judge you, and if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But this was a face-to-face story, and I remember my son was 2.5, I think, and my young one, who's 15. So this is going back then.
Sure.
So I put him in his car seat, and I drove the route, and I found the house.
Wow.
And man, I did not stop, and to this day I regret that. But I mean, what was I going to tell? Hey, I got this report. A kid ran to this house, but then I should have stopped and talked to maybe the same parents. People live there. Maybe they have questions. Maybe I could have helped them. So that's one of the huge regrets.
Sure.
As far as like this whole topic goes, that I did not stop. And talk to them and. Maybe I could have answered some questions, I have no idea. But yes, it's something that I deeply have, I should have stopped and I should have talked to him, but I had my kid and I didn't want to stop and do all that. But yeah, just like he said, it was, it happened. I found every single mark.
Wow.
He was shaking when he told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just shook his whole world.
Yeah. So, like I said, a couple of years kind of went by, and then 2009, 10, I can't really remember. And then these last 5 years have been just like really, it's like it's getting more intense every year. But of course, it's, I'm paying more attention. So the more you pay attention, of course, the more things are going to happen.
Right.
So some of the recent things that have happened, I'm trying to think on some of the things I had told you. Do you remember the story I told you when I came home last November?
No, I don't remember that.
I'm not sure if I recall either. What was it about?
So I was working 2 nights a week for a friend, and so I would come home late at night on Monday and Friday nights. Mostly Friday nights. Sometimes it would vary Saturday or Friday, but most Monday nights I would come home late. So this one particular night, it was 11:15, I think, when I got home, because when I walked into the door, my husband had said, "Hey, is that you?" So basically what happened was when I got down from my truck,
Right.
I heard like a loud snap, and it's not like a branch, but it sounded like a tree snap.
Oh, okay.
And from across the street, and I was like, I looked. I mean, of course I'm going to look because it got my attention. I was thinking. I got down. I was like, okay, they're trying to get my attention, obviously. So, and this was last November.
Uh-huh.
So I walked to my gate, and I heard another snap, and then I was getting a little nervous because that was the loudest that they have ever been when I was outside, and it was like so obvious.
Wow.
So I walked from my truck to the gate. I unlocked the gate, and I walked up to my front porch, and then I heard a really loud snap, and my dogs came through the thingy, and they, did the kind of yelping thing, and they came back in the house. And so I turned around, and I just, stared into the darkness across the street, and I did something that you're probably going to laugh, but this is what I do. I said, that is your house, and I pointed to the mountains, and I said, this is my house. So stay over there. It probably sounds dumb, but a lot of people say that this is a good thing to do, and so
Right.
hey, whether it works or not, I don't know, but I just said, don't touch my dogs, don't touch my my house or nothing.
Right.
So I came in the house and I went to sleep, and the next day I walked across the street, and my heart just went into my stomach, because I thought, okay, well, maybe I was just imagining it, right?
Right.
Maybe it was just something that I heard. So right in front of me was a tree branch that was bent over. It wasn't snapped. It was bent over, kind of like a marker. And it was not like that 2 days before, because I take my dogs across the street, and when I walk them, when I take them out, like down the road, I always go across the street. And then it gets like really dense, and it drops off, kind of like in a valley where it's like really creepy. I won't go in those woods.
Oh, okay.
But it was bent over, and then I went straight, and there was another marker that was bent over, and then I did not go any further, because that's where it gets creepy, where I will not go in without somebody else or without my dog.
Right.
So I just turned back around, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there it is, so whatever that means. So
Now,
there was 2 markers there. Go ahead.
what is your opinion of some of those bent trees? Some people claim
Well-
that depending on which way they're broken, if they're pointing a direction, does that mean stay out of the way it's pointing, or does it mean opposite of where it's pointing, stay out? What have you heard about those?
Well, actually, I was talking with a Choctaw lady. I'm not going to say her name right now,
Sure.
but I want her to come onto your show.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
really, really smart. She's a healer, but I'm not even really sure what to call her. She's really, really smart. I found her through, the internet, and I talked with her on the phone. She's really smart, and I believe some of the things that everything that she says, but regarding this, because this terrified me. There are two things that have terrified me, and I haven't told you the other story.
Okay.
This one here, I was really scared because when I got down from my truck, it was so loud. I turned around because it was so quiet, and I jumped, and I turned around, and I looked across the street, and I knew right away what was happening, and I was thinking, oh,
Sure.
man.
Yeah.
So I think this is what she said, that it's a marker. It could be a marker pointing in a direction where they want me to follow.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I said, well, I'm not going to follow because
Because Mama didn't raise no fools.
well, she didn't say that I should. She said they're trying. That could be something that what it means, and that I should follow. And I said, well, it's that's not going to happen. And she says, well, okay. I said, I like the level that I'm at. I don't want to get more cozy with these creatures. A lot of people talk about, and she's like, and that's okay if you're not ready. And I'm like, I know I'm good. I think, I'm good at this, at this level. I don't want to get any more, comfortable and she's like, okay, that's fine. And because she was saying that they're saying they want me to follow, and I was like, heck no. And besides that, it goes onto private property. There's another property, and then there's a road, and then there's more property, and it goes up the mountain. It's not like I can just, walk on private property.
Right.
So, that just really terrified me. And then that was earlier this year.
Hey, Brent,
So the other event.
Put up picture Cindy 4. Those are the bent trees.
Oh, okay. All right. Just 1 second. Continue on, Cindy. I'm just going to put up some more of the...
Okay, so I'll tell you the other story. That
The fourth
now
one.
this one terrified me the most.
Yep.
That I wanted to put my house up for sale.
The fourth one.
Well, which one's the fourth one, Don?
The one that's number 4.
Where are you seeing?
That one right there. That's blue.
This one is the footprint.
Oh, is that the footprint?
Yeah.
Where the heck did you put it? That one there.
This one?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'll put it up
Put
and
that
we'll
up.
see what it is.
Sorry.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, see the bent trees in there?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Sorry about that, Cindy. We're just getting coordinated here.
Okay, so I will tell you this story about the trees. I was going to tell you the other terrifying story that happened to me that made me want to sell my house. I mean, I'm not kidding you. But I'll go ahead and tell you about this. So, whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you perfect.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my phone sometimes buzzes.
Oh.
So that is a story about my neighbor. So this is an example of what I have learned, because, I live here, obviously, so I know I've learned a lot. I've lived here 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Norma is somebody who is very important in my life, and I'm going to really try not to cry, but she was somebody very important in my life, because when I moved here, it was very hard for me because I moved from Texas, everything I knew, and my husband was in the military, and it was like, okay, here's your lives, I have children.
Mm-hmm.
And she is an older lady in her 80s, and she was a widow, and she became like my mom, and like the children's second grandparent. So
Right.
she was just somebody very important in my life, and we, my family was very close with her family. I knew her kids, her family, and we would go over for Thanksgiving. We'd go over, and when it would snow, help her snowplow. So when you're raising kids, you're busy, and you kind of just, over the years, I saw her less and less, and I would stop by, and, I feel so guilty because she was so important to me and so dear, and sometimes I would walk through part of my woods to go to her house.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coming home one day, and I saw a bunch of people outside, and I saw this big truck, and I'm like, what's going on? So I pulled in. Now, I had not talked to her in over a year. and I saw her family, and they said that she was moving, and I was like, what? So basically, she was moving to Montana to be with her daughter because it was necessary, and they were going to sell the house. And I was just so sad because I had just been thinking, oh, I need to go see her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, life happens, and you just, you lose track of time and people. And I was feeling so bad and so guilty. And so I saw her, and then I left, and it was later that day. I, had come back, and I was looking at her woods because I had noticed the couple, like the prior year that she had been, like she had been gone, and then she was there, then she had been gone. She had been traveling to go visit her family. So I guess it was finally determined that she was going to move with her daughter in Montana, and some of her woods had been like torn up, and I thought, oh my gosh, that wasn't there. So a lot of woods had just been torn up, and then I had come back down my road, and I had stepped onto her property in her woods there, and I was just so sad, and I cried.
Sure.
And then, well, I felt bad. I felt guilty. She was like, a very important person. And I thought, this is very strange. This is something that had been discussed. How Bigfoot, how they show their feelings, I guess, or how they show, like how they feel of, certain life events. And her woods were all, there was a section. So I had come back later, and, I drive by down this road all the time. So why is it that this is there where I'm going to see it? How come they didn't do this anywhere else in her woods?
Right.
Because when the house was empty, I walked some of the other property, and I didn't see anything. I didn't see a whole lot of damage, but it was there by the road where I drive by. So I noticed that arch, the one that you were showing.
Right.
I see something else now.
Right.
Can you go back to the arch?
I can. Yep. Hold on. Let me see what.
Because
yep, there.
What it was, and if you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you put it back? 'Cause I don't see it.
Hold on and let it catch up. You've got a leg when you're looking at it like that, so
Yeah.
give it just a sec.
Okay, that one. One.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you can see both of the trees, do you see how they're pulled back and intertwined
Yes.
together?
Yep.
What does that look like?
A heart.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really is. Wow.
And that is where I can see it from the road.
Huh.
And I have shown like 3 people who thought I was full of crap. And then I showed them that. And I said, what does that look like to you? And then I walked underneath it. And when I walked underneath it, I can't even tell you the comfort that I felt. And I know it sounds stupid,
No,
but that
think
was,
it's wonderful.
like, what is that? What is it? What is that? It was just crazy.
Mm.
And I don't even know what to say, but it's something that is very dear to me.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the most beautiful structure because it resembles her and it resembles something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's
isn't
really
that
cool.
amazing?
It is. It's really cool. And, I think that there's lots of legends and lore with the First Nations, especially about them being able to communicate with their mind and stuff. And so if that's possible, and people talk about their intelligence, and some people believe they have an equivalent intelligence to us.
Right.
And if that's the case, if they can, hear our thoughts, then coming up with a symbol like this, I think is beautiful. I don't put anything beyond, possibility, definitely.
Well, see where your arrow is at, and if you stand underneath it,
Yeah.
they are the top of the pines have been pulled down, and they have been intertwined together.
That is
For
really
me,
cool.
that
That is really amazing.
yes, and so that's my my Norma story. So she's gone. There's some other people that live there, and and there had been an ex there for years, or what I'm assuming it could have been an ex, because I felt it and it was stout. You had another picture up. Can you put that one up next?
Let's see. This one, is it the one with the tree coming down in the middle of those other intertwined trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be up. Let me know when you see it. It'll be up on your screen momentarily.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay, so me and Glenn went to go check out this property. And I'm not going to say where it's at, but it's not too far from here.
Sure.
And when we were leaving, I found this structure, and it was on private property, so it's not like I could just, it was at the edge. And I did step onto the property because I had to see this.
Right.
And it was very close to the road. And if you can see it's just all tight, and it was like a jack, like that game where you toss.
Yeah, the balls and stuff. Yeah.
It was like, yes, and that's what it looked like, a jack. And everything was interwoven, kind of like the structure at that place that we went to go look at. The intricate work, yes, on that. This here was just there, and it's still there. In fact, I could probably take y'all down there, and we can take a look at it.
Absolutely.
And another crazy thing about this area, and I'll take you guys down there too. In fact, I don't know why I didn't think about this. Gosh, I could have called you guys, and we could have hopped in the car and gone down here.
I know.
So there's this lake. Pardon me. There's this lake, and there's large parcels all around the lake. On one part of the lake, there is like tracks, and then on the other part is, private property. And it's a very small lake, and me and Glenn went to go check this property. It was like 70 acres. And we found, or Glenn found, a deer skeleton that had been ripped in two.
Ooh.
And we found this structure, and I remember, oh my gosh, and I was dying hiking. I was so out of shape. OMG. I'm definitely no spring chicken when it comes to, we were climbing down hills, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was a bad idea. But hey, I'm 50-something years old, and I'm definitely not the researcher that I was, or the endurance that I had. But we got in our vehicles, and we were driving around. And when we drove down the road, there's a house, and I would have sent you pictures, but if anybody local is seeing these pictures, they'll know where I'm talking about. And I don't want to give away this person's property.
Absolutely.
There are signs. This lady has a property there, and I think it's gated. There are wooden signs everywhere, and you should see there are biblical stuff on there. She had, what's that term? What is that term, that biblical term? Giants. What is that
Nephilim,
word that they use?
Nephilim?
What?
Nephilim or Nephilim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was on, and it said Nephilim is here, or something like that.
Ooh.
And then there was another sign, like a totem pole. It was a really weird, and it said, the portal is here, or something with the portal.
Wow.
And there's like Luke 3, whatever. There was like these signs with, quotes on there, just all over her front yard. And then we had done some, questioning with that property owner, because I said, hey, this is what we saw. And she's like, oh, really? And I was like, yes. You should drive around. So she got in her car, she drove, and she called me, and she was like, oh my gosh, did you see that one where it said that? And I was like, yes, it's crazy. So she had been trying to ask some of the other people. Apparently, this person is very like a recluse.
Oh,
And I
sure.
had driven by 2 or 3 times in my vehicle, and I stood out there in front of the road. I mean, I can't just I can't just open her gate
Right.
and go talk to her. I was hoping she would see me and she would come out and talk to me. So that is at this lake where that is at, and where I found this structure on a different property as your, so that right there is definitely some kind of structure, and it was into the ground. It was shoved into the ground. And I bet you if we drive by there now, we will see it. So I'm going to have to take you guys, and
Please,
we're going to have to take a day thing and go check it out. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's another thing that I found. Did I send you any other pictures?
Yeah, like there's this one, looks like is this water down? Is that what I'm seeing? You'll see it on your screen.
That's a down tree right there.
That's a down tree. Oh, a down tree. Okay. There's a down tree, and it looks like kind of a grassy field.
No. Oh, my gosh. I didn't send you the right picture. Can you blow that up? Because this is where the property across the street from me. If you'll see your arrow right there, can you see the tree bent over?
Way back there? Let's see.
Oh, on the left?
If you zoom in, you will see, okay, this picture here, if you zoom in, can you zoom in? Okay, oh yes, perfect. Now, can you bring it down? Can you see where the tree is bent over?
Mm-hmm. On the left-hand side? Kind of center left?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's that's a picture taken from afar, but I have one up close, and I didn't send you the right one. But this is where something did. So this is the property across the street. So if I'm coming home that's it.
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom there, it's still alive. So when you guys come, I'll show you what I'm talking about. You'll come over to my house, and we'll walk across the street. So right there, where your arrow is, if you can go down there, very end. Yes, it's still alive, and it's not broken. It's just bent over, and it was not like that. And there's another one, if you go further into the woods, like a marker, and I didn't go any further.
Okay.
And that was the day after I had come home at night, and there was that loud crack.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, man. Hey, I got very scared. In fact,
Yeah.
I called Bear.
Uh-huh.
Because he's like my brother. He's somebody,
Sure.
an old friend. I mean, we're very close. So
Yeah.
I called him, and I told him what happened, and I was like, I want to sell my house. This is a little bit, too much, and I'm just coming home. I mean, what the heck is going on? And he was just telling me, well, they're just trying to get your attention, obviously, and so don't react. But I mean, I'm sorry, when somebody breaks something, what do? You turn and you look, right?
Right.
So it's hard. It's hard to ignore it. So that picture there that you're showing, I'm not really sure what that is. I think that's just a picture of. Oh, I know what that is. That's a picture of the game trail that goes.
Okay. Yeah.
On the edge of my property. Can you see the trail there?
Oh yeah. Yep. Can definitely see
on
the worn path.
The forest floor there. It goes straight back. Yeah. So that's next to. Yeah, there. Can you see that?
Yep.
So I have a lot of structures further back that I kind of just don't go back there too much because it's it's really thick right now. But if you were with me, I would go back there.
Well, we definitely have to put a time for that up.
Yeah, we can go anytime. I mean, this is a great.
I mean, it's not like it's really scary. I don't know. I just don't walk back there that much. But
sure.
At the end of this trail comes there's like a T, and so I have like a lot of deer and moose, that travel through there, and then eventually it goes up the mountain. So that's all that is.
Okay. Yeah, those are there's this one as well. Now this looks like there's a fence line and then roof in the background. What is that? I assume that's your house. It'll be up in just a second.
So I don't think I sent you because I didn't go in far enough. Okay, what's this? Okay, yeah, I think that's just a picture of my house.
Okay.
You know, kind of like I'm standing across the street. So I'm trying to. If I'm standing across the street, I'm looking at my house from where it happened. You know, just where I heard that crack. So I'm just trying to stand from the road, trying to just like give you like a picture of what it looks like from a different angle, I guess. So that is my fence there. I have 2 dogs, like I said, and so that was probably one of the terrifying things that happened to me. Was that, and Memorial Weekend is in May, right? Yeah,
Yes.
Labor Day is in September. Okay. So in May of 2016 was probably like the worst time ever that I have lived here, because something happened, and I even have a really bad picture, but it's like a blob picture, and my neighbor took it. So my neighbor, who is the 6 acres over next to me, he does not believe at all. So going back to when I told you I would come home on Monday nights, I came home on a Monday night, and it was 11:15, and I walked into the house, and I got a message from my neighbor, but I didn't read it right away. I, went straight to bed. I was pretty tired. So the next morning when I woke up and my husband was getting ready to leave for work, he looked at me and he said, now keep in mind my husband doesn't like Bigfoot. He doesn't like the topic. He could care less. So we didn't talk about it, Yeah. Yeah, it's like, shut up, I don't want to hear anymore. But so he said, what time did you come home last night? I said 11:15. He said, okay, so around 10:15, something slapped the side of the house. And I was pouring him something, I don't know if it was cereal or what, and I just stopped. And I was like, what? And this was the Monday before the weekend of Memorial holiday. So Monday night, so now I came home at 11:15, so now it's Tuesday. And for him to tell me that, I said, what? He said, slap? He said, slap, hit, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I ran outside to the side of the house, and I was looking around. Of course, so many pine needles, I didn't really see anything. I did see something I have like this big porch, and something was like dirty on the house. And I don't know, it was a handprint or what. I just kind of like noticed it. And I went back in the house, and then I said, really? He said, it was enough to get me out of bed and to get my gun.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so that was 10:15. And he said, so now I've told you, don't be asking me a million times what happened. I said, okay, fine. And then I opened up my phone, and I read the message, and my blood ran cold. I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My neighbor had texted me the night before, and he said, hey, heads up, my lights are going off.
Ooh,
and so his lights went off, and he said his cats were acting really strange, hissing, and these are indoor cats. And
wow.
I was and then he said, and then later, but I mean, he didn't see anything because his house is all wooded as well. And he has a shed with a light on it on the right side of his house. It's like right next to it. So when you come in through the U driveway,
Mm-hmm.
it goes by the shed. It goes in front of the living room, and then in front of his bedroom, and then it goes out like in a horseshoe shape back to our semi-private road.
Wow.
He says his lights went off, his animals were hissing, and then later on, when they were going to sleep, he said he saw something on the left of the house in the moonlight on two legs, and
Wow.
it was sniffing the air.
Oh, jeez.
And he said, "Was that a burglar?" And because I called him, and so my husband's like, "Okay, well, crap." And I'm like, so he had to go to work. I went over there and I talked to my neighbor. Guess what the first thing he said? "Oh, it wasn't Bigfoot." I said, "Okay." So I didn't say I was. I said, what happened? And he said something was on hind legs, and it was sniffing the air. And it was standing there off to the left. And I asked him, how tall was it? He really couldn't tell me, even though there was a tree next to this person, being, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And then that was it. And I was like, okay, great. And he said, but I did sleep with my gun all night. And so then a couple of days later, he said, we were talking again, and he said, I think it was a bear. And I said, so you don't think it was a person? He said, no, that could have been a person. The way they were standing, because their hands were like, or their arms, the way it was standing, he really couldn't tell me, like, well, how were the hands? How were the arms? Because, again, he doesn't believe, so he's not going to sit here and give me a
Sure.
supposed description. He was just saying it was, it's probably a bear. So
Wow.
I contacted a friend of mine, and he actually had a show, and it was a podcast.
Uh-huh.
And he does live here in the area,
Okay.
and he told me that was either a female bear or it was a Sasquatch. And then he told me about his encounter, and then like the next couple of days, he said that's not a bear.
Huh.
And I said, so he did some kind of, he looked at this blob picture. That's what I call it, because it's not clear. So what happened was, that was Monday night. So Thursday night, me and my husband were in bed, and he sat up because we had our windows open. It's May.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's Thursday, the Thursday before the holiday of the Memorial holiday. And I said, what do you hear? He said, oh, I hear like whistling. And I go, oh, it's probably just this that's what out there, whatever. Because, what, we lay in bed and we'll hear stuff, and, oh, well, whatever. They're out doing their thing. I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, whatever, just go to sleep. So then Friday we left and we went to Priest Lake. Mm-hmm. That's another area that we have to go. Hopefully,
Yes.
maybe like before this fall, before it snows. So we were out of cell phone range, and we took our toy hauler with our, whatever, ATVs, and we were actually outside of Nordman, Nordman up there by Priest Lake. So we were out of cell range. So my phone, basically, I was not even getting messages. So that Monday, when we were coming back, was it Monday or Tuesday? Well, anyway, when we were coming back in 2016, I think there had been some kind of windstorm or something had happened. Because I remember there was a lot of wind or some, bunch of trees down. So when we came into Coolin, because when you're leaving Priest Lake and you come into Priest River off of Highway 57, it's like my cell phone came back on, and my phone started going ding, 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 which meant I had messages.
Sure.
So I checked my messages, and I just freaked out. My neighbor said whatever it is came back.
Ooh.
So either it was Saturday morning. So now it's Memorial Weekend. His wife is in the medical.
Field.
I think she's a nurse.
Okay.
It was 4:30, and she goes in early, obviously, and he was drinking coffee, and he was looking basically into his woods, and something was walking way back there on its hind legs, and it was the same thing. He was pretty sure that was there on Monday night.
Wow.
And he took a picture with his phone, and I'll send you that picture, but I don't share that because a lot
Sure.
of people get,
Yeah.
that's not clear. Well, of course it's not clear. I didn't take it. My neighbor took it. So I gave that picture to my friend who is a hunter, and he said, Cindy, I'm going to tell you something. That is not a female bear. And he said, I've had this picture analyzed. It's really crappy. And he had like this design thing, like he did like a kind of drawing. And
Sure.
then he kind of like zoomed in, and you could see like this face. And it still wasn't clear for me, but it didn't look friendly, that's for sure. I could see teeth, and I was like, what the heck?
Huh?
So whatever it was, it seems like March into April into May, there's just crazy stuff that goes on around here. And over the last 2 years from, hearing these audios, it seems like those are the months where the clan is around here, and
Sure.
I call it the clan.
Uh-huh.
But there's other stuff that goes through here. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that event that happened really, I called Bear up and I said, I'm selling my house.
Yeah.
I want to put this house on the market. Oh yeah. He had to calm me down, I'll tell you that.
People up here seem to be at least more familiar with the possibility of these things being around, though, I would think, than a lot of other areas. Whether it's a part of the mountain culture, and most people have just resigned themselves to the fact that there's things in these hills, and or what is your take on it? Would you agree that people overall seem to be more embracing the idea?
Well, back when coming from, Texas, from the South, and coming up here, it was a lot more easier for me to talk to people about the subject. But now, today, people accept, the southern states a lot more easier now than what they did back in my day. And can I talk about, that time when I did some researching? I'm going to kind of go back in time now a little
Sure.
bit. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Do whatever you'd like.
So, so everybody has heard of the siege of Kenobi, or I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. That's Kenobi. Have you heard of that area?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty famous in the Sasquatch lore.
Okay, so in 1997, me and my husband, we had gotten married in 1993. So, not 1997, and that was when we first camped out there. So, we have an aunt that lived in a town called Talahina, which is not too far from Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm saying it wrong. And we went to go visit her, and, very sweet lady. So this is an area that we were introduced to, not just because his aunt lived there, but we had, like I said, horses, and I rode horses for a large part of my life. So we were invited to go camping in Kenobi, and we would join this group of people, and we would go every October, and sometimes there would be like 100 people. And
Wow.
we would go up into the area there, and we would camp out for a week. I would only go for the weekend because I worked, and my children were young at the time. Well, my oldest, my other son wasn't born. He was born in 2003. So in 1998, 1999, we, all the way until 2004, we would go camping there also by, ourselves, and we would take our horses.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when that happened, that event, and it really scared me because my aunt knows the family, and the way that whole thing was portrayed
Mm-hmm.
was not right.
Yeah.
That event happened just like you hear it on the Siege of Kenobi on the YouTube channel. What show is that? Sasquatch
Chronicles, yeah, with Wes Germer.
Okay. Well, whatever show it was, if you just type in the Siege of Kenobi, that event really happened. A lot of people had been critical of that whole event, and I have ridden many times by myself on my horse, and I've taken my dog with me, and I'm lucky nothing ever really happened to me because, and I really didn't get into Bigfoot until 99,
Mm-hmm.
but we had gone there a couple of times, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know what Bigfoot was. I didn't know the sounds they made, and we had camped out there like 97, I think, 98, and I remember hearing the siren sound, and I wish I had an example to give you, because I do have some recordings where it goes, that sound that we call the siren sound, where it just goes long,
right,
and and it has like the same note that drops off.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that for the first time. That was the first time I ever heard of Bigfoot, and I told my husband, "What is that?" And he goes, "I have no idea." And I remember sitting there thinking, "What is that? That is crazy."
Yeah.
Who knew that I would find out what it was and everything else that was going to happen? But we have been camping there many times, and now they all, a lot of, there's some team that gives, that takes people out. I can't think of what they're called, but I heard something the other night on a podcast, and I can't think of the name. But it's crazy, to think that I was there, before it was a popular area, and now it's such a popular area because of that story. And my aunt even talked to the family, and we had this discussion, and I even talked with them myself. And I'm not gonna. They do enjoy their privacy, so I'm not even gonna say the family name. So if you hear the story, you'll hear the family name. But it's true. It happened. They did, they did have to shoot one, and it's just unfortunate the way that the story was portrayed, because people perceived it in a manner that was not correct. Mm-hmm. So that kind of really was annoying when you go back, and because it's that's why people can't take you seriously. Like, it's really hard to know, like, who can you trust when you talk to, because they're going to go out and change the story, or change people laugh and they don't.
Sure.
If the story is not shared correctly. So that whole popular story is true. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that, they went through hell, and my aunt talked with them, and and she said, "Cindy, yeah, it happened." And I was like, "I know it happened." And I even rode by the house on horseback. Of course, I didn't stop. I didn't think that they were there. They had probably moved on. But yes, that family was very private, and, they had gone through a lot of people ridiculing them, and
right.
That's really unfortunate. But yeah, that is a true event.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had many other things happen. One time we were camping. We didn't even have our horses. We were just there camping by the creek, and I don't know what time it was, but it started that, and I had been researching already, so I knew what I was hearing. We were laying in bed, and I could hear the sounds, and it went all night long around our whole camp. Not very close, but it was far enough, but all night long I could hear it from the right, kind of like a clock, like
right.
1 o'clock, for like till dawn.
Jeez.
It kept going. And my husband, got up in the night, and he went to our truck because I heard it going, when you open your vehicle and it makes the, the ding, ding, ding. And I could hear him getting out our big rifle, and he came back to bed, and I was thinking, oh boy. But of course, nothing happened. But so I've been to Kenobi many times, and now they have this, festival there, and I just think, how crazy that is.
Right.
So, yeah, so I have been researching and for some areas where they've had some really scary things happen. Have you heard of the Browns story in Oklahoma? Have you heard of that story?
I don't recognize the name, but I've heard hundreds of different stories, but I'm not sure what the details of their story is.
So the Browns Spring story, basically.
Oh, Brown Springs.
If you're leaving, what?
Is this with the young couple?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've heard it. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really scary. Okay, so I've been researching there,
Yeah.
and I was actually with, Bear and some of the other people, and they found, along the Red River there's like a cemetery there, and I remember going to the cemetery. It was really creepy. It was like evil, and I just wanted to leave, and I know they found a horse or something, and some other things happened, but. Oh yeah, I would never want to go back there. But another time when we were in East Texas, I was hanging out. We were all out there overnight.
Let me fill people in on what that story is, just in a nutshell. And I'm not going to go into details, but essentially, a young couple was out parking, romantically parking, and were getting intimate, and they were interrupted, obviously, by something very large and powerful, and possibly a few of them. And the man was found, thrown like 20 or 30 feet away with his neck twisted around backwards, and the woman was absolutely brutalized. So it's definitely a dark, dark story. But you'll have to look it up for yourself if you want the details.
Oh yeah, it's a really bad story. And I know Bear gave a really good interview somewhere on the internet, and I think the description was like one of the worst ways to die, something by Bigfoot. I don't know, but you can just do a search and see if you can find it, and maybe y'all can put it up on your page if you know where he gives the actual story, because Bear really gives the story in good detail, and he can tell exactly what happened. And
I heard Bear do it on Coast to Coast when Dave Schrader was filling in. That's where I heard that story originally.
Yeah, and they actually knew the investigator, or somebody looked into it that they knew. I can't remember the whole details, but yeah, that was close to where I lived in Dallas. Well, I mean, not close, but in the same general area. So that just like really creeped me out, because I have been out on thousands of expeditions with those guys, and I miss them. I miss them terribly.
Yeah.
And I don't do that up here because my life is different up here. And
Sure.
I mean, I live right here where I'm at. I don't, have to go very far. So I was actually hit in East Texas with what I am being told is infrasound. I didn't know at the time what it was.
Right.
But we were out, I think it was Boykin Springs. And we were just, it was really late, obviously. And I remember Kelly. Kelly is another one of our researcher partners, and she has passed away. She was actually my best friend in Dallas. So this was in East Texas, and we were out there. And I remember like I was stunned or something, and I couldn't move. I don't know how else to describe it, like for a couple of seconds. And I didn't know what had happened. And I had been told later that it was infrasound.
Right.
Because when we would go out, Kelly would get very sick. Her eyes would swell up. She would just get deathly ill. I was sick too, but not like her. But that one time, I remember I couldn't move for a couple of seconds, and it was very strange. And it was actually pretty terrifying when you find out about it later. And Kumbo had actually told me, and he had talked about infrasound in the 90s, and people laughed about it. And now today, everybody talks about it and they accept it, which is like really, really funny. And so I'm going to give him the credit for how I had heard about it. I was witness there. I'm researching with these guys. And, he also has some really good interviews. Just do a search. And he has given interviews, and he has explained infrasound. That's, is pretty much his background.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my one time that I had that encounter, and I had learned years later that it was infrasound. So also, a lot of my research in East Texas, my first encounter before this was in the very beginning, there's a place called Sulphur Springs, Texas. I was actually out with some other guys, and we were at this private property, and there was like this animal preserve connected to this property. I think she had like 20 acres, and she was single. She had a child, and she was very apprehensive who could come onto her property. But I was allowed to come onto the property because I was with these other people. So I felt very privileged. And I had been there a couple of times, and she had told me the story that when she was young on this property outside of Sulphur Springs in Texas, that her family owned this property. And when she was young, she saw something that I'm going to just describe as a baby Sasquatch jump down from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so years later, she lives on this property, in a house, obviously, that was built on that property. And she had told me the story face to face. And we were on top of this barn, like on the second story, and it was like 3 or 4 of us. And this one particular night, there was not a lot going on, but we heard this weird, strange noise. It sounded like something dying. I was like, what the heck? I had gone down the stairs to get a drink from the trunk of my car. So the other person I was with said, don't move. There's one 50 feet in front of you.
Wow.
Or something like that. And I was like, my hand was touching the trunk, like before you, slam it down, not slam it down, but like when you're going to push it down. My hand was up like that when he was saying that. And I closed the trunk, and I was looking straight ahead, and all I could see was like a shadow. I saw like a branch and like an arm. So it's not like I saw it clearly, but I know what I saw.
Wow.
And I opened up my drink, and I started talking like, trying to act normal. And then I walked up the stairs, and I was shaking. And they were doing footage of the night vision recording. And I ended up seeing that later. And it was terrifying. What I saw was the face, and it was snarling, and I could see like the lips curled up, and it was like it was clearly mad. And the arm was, I could see part of the arm, and that was something
that
I just can't believe that.
Yeah,
that was my first encounter. I'm going to assume with what I didn't see it clear as day because it was dark, but I could see something. And then later, I saw that. Yeah. But and I lost contact with some of those people. So, I kind of wish I could have kept some proof of that or something. But after that, I did not go out for like 6 months. That
Oh.
scared me. I did not go out for 6 months. I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
I'm staying. I'm done.
Absolutely. Now, Cindy, we only got about 10 minutes left. So, what I want to do is I'm going to scroll through these pictures real quick of the structure that you and Don and I and Glenn checked out at that residential place. First of all, these are pictures of the track that we saw. And, ladies and gentlemen, this track, it's hard to get an idea of how big it is, but this is got to be close to about 20 inches, 17 to 20 inches in length from the
Okay.
toes up here all the way down to the heel. And it wasn't castable because it was on an incline. There was
Oh,
no
yeah.
way it could have been castable. But what I found out later when I was proofing them and getting them ready to go was this. This is like a miniature footprint in this inside of it. So you have this enormous footprint that takes up the whole frame. And then when I was proofing it on my Photoshop, I was zoomed in, and that's when I caught this little mini print. And you can see like an aspen leaf here. So this gives you an idea. There's the toe, big toe, next toe, next toe, next toe, next toe, and then down to the heel. So this is like really an infant squatch, if this is indeed a squatch print.
I remember that, and I remember thinking, oh, man, it's on the hill. Again, I was trying to, say, because I was kind of kneeling over it, and I was holding on to something because I knew I was going to roll down that hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just trying to, and I remember that day, it was kind of dank
Yes.
when we had gone to that property, and we had walked, and I remember seeing that, and I was just trying to hold on without even rolling down the hill, much less try, put my hand there for a comparison. I mean, it's
right. It was
it's
really
quite
something.
sad, yes. I'm not the spring chicken I used to be.
Nor are any of us, as it turns out. But you can see several shots of that same image. But again, this is a huge, it's got to be about 17 inches, if not 20 inches. But then that little micro print in there was a revelation that we didn't even catch at the time until I was back here proofing it. Did we find that little mini print? And not sure what it means. I can't say for sure, but it was there. So there's several pictures of that. Here is the top of the structure that we did investigate. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see now these branches are probably about 2 to 3 inches in diameter.
Definitely that.
Yeah, or maybe 3 to 4, Don. What would you say?
My microphone's out again.
Yeah, I know. We'll fix that. There you go.
Oh, there it goes. So yeah, definitely, it was definitely a minimum of 3 inches around. So these things are, about so big, and when the homeowner found it, it was brand new. I mean, you can
Right.
see all the leaves, the pine needles were still green on it. So
These were
Yeah.
fresh breaks.
these are fresh breaks,
These
and
were
they're
not
all
old.
they're all upside down. So
I pushed up against it,
uh-huh.
and it was, yeah, I leaned into it, and I pressed into it, and it like bounced me back.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so sturdy. And so now this roof line that you're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is 7 feet plus.
7 feet, definitely 7
Yeah.
feet plus.
Plus.
That one that goes
Oh,
up in
yeah.
the center to the right, at least, yeah, there you go.
This one.
That fresh break right there is at least 10 foot in the air.
Yeah.
Now what it looks like happened was they broke them off, and then put the tops of the branches down and flipped all of the broken ends up. And it was pretty incredible. Did you have a picture of those saplings that were bent over for the
Yeah,
structure?
we'll get to
Okay.
that. So and now here's a big picture of it, and you can see how tucked in it is here. How easy it would be to miss this. As you look around, there's a. Is this where the felled tree is here,
Yeah,
Don?
the double fell tree is right just to that
There's
left
a
there.
long pine or conifer tree that's underneath this scrub, and there were broken branches from that with the pine needle still on it, providing more camouflage.
Right. Yeah.
But this is
It really looked like where they could like spy on you, because it was
Yeah.
not too far from the house.
Yep.
That would be perfect for them to use as a camouflage or spying.
Right. And we'll get to some of these other pictures here and there's more where you can see just how well it's hidden in here. Again, these leaves had just turned. They were all green.
Yeah, this was.
But this was in the autumn, so it was
October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were all turning now and falling off, but you can see, let's see, here it is. Here's Don reaching up, and what would you say your reach is right here,
geez.
Don?
I'm 5'10", so that's got to be well over 6.5 feet.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly that'd be like more in the 7-foot range there. And then when you look at how high that top is, so you can get a feel for the size of these timbers that were broken for this structure. It's no small pieces, and not a cut end in there, ladies and gentlemen. These were all snapped. These are all snapped. They're not cut. Not a single one.
Oh, exactly. And so I was there. I felt it. I pushed on it. I crawled underneath it. I stood behind it, and I could see where, if something were to be standing, like a blind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's very tall and huge and stout. And like you said, it was not like somebody sawed it and built it like a teepee structure. I mean, this was just too intricate. I mean, somebody would...
And these branches...
it doesn't make sense.
Right. These branches are woven together. They're not just laying there. They're interwoven. And there's a picture or two coming up. Inside of here is the picture where the core of this whole structure, ladies and gentlemen, is about a 6-inch diameter sapling that's bent over to provide the structure.
That sapling's at least 15 to 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
Somebody, to grab it and bend it like that, they have to grab it near the top.
Yeah.
And then gently pull it down. A human would grab it and then kind of shimmy up it to try and bring it down, but that would snap it.
Right.
And that's just one of the two main that I saw.
Right. Yeah. And there's another. You can see that it's very alive. It's the foundation of this is absolutely alive and very rigid and strong. Mm-hmm. Here's some of those ends that were clearly broken, clearly snapped off. And you can see the wood is not aged here. This is, it was very fresh within the last month or somewhere in that range.
Right.
From when we actually got there to investigate it. But there's some other shots of that again. Now you can kind of see in this shot how it's woven together in a dome-like structure. It's not just branches laying in a brush pile. These were very systematically put in place. And there's a great picture. Here's some other things that were up in the trees near there that I don't think we saw that day. But Don, you and I went back the next.
Right, we went back and looked at it, and we found
these others,
up there.
Pieces up there.
Oh my gosh, that's a great picture right there.
Right? Yeah, I mean, those are not just...
It shows the intricacy and difficulty. I mean, I'm telling you, I was there and I witnessed this. I'm sorry, no human could have done that. That's just too... It took a lot of strength. And what you were saying about the trees being bent over, that is exactly what happened to my house. Across the street, the way it was bent over like that, and it's not like snapped into, like, I couldn't do that. A human couldn't do that, and it happened the day after. They have this crazy way of being able to, use these branches for whatever they need, whether it's bending it over for their structures or to get attention or to build something, and they can just, without snapping it. I would love to figure that out. That's crazy.
It is. They definitely know how to apply. Here's another shot of that woven stuff from underneath. So you can see, and these are probably 15, 20 feet into the tree. So they're quite a ways up yet. But I do have another photo. Here's one side of it, ladies and gentlemen. This gives you a real good view of how these pieces were woven together. You got over, and then this goes under, and then over. And so there's a rudimentary weaving that was used to create this. I mean, this is not just a a random fall of branches structure.
Right.
This is very intentionally created for some purpose. But you've seen it here, folks, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time we've unveiled these pictures publicly. And what better time than when Cindy's on, as she was there and helped investigate it with us and really guided us and directed the investigation. You and Glenn were outstanding.
Yes, absolutely.
And we can't wait to get more evidence with you. So whenever you're able to take Don and I out for a day pass, we'll be absolutely excited.
Absolutely.
Well, yes, for sure. I told you I had family coming up, and
Sure.
after that, it has to be in August.
Okay, perfect.
So it doesn't. Well, what I want to do is have you all over and have that little powwow around the campfire, just
Yes.
kind of
Absolutely.
talk and listen, and then I'll take you out to across the street from me. How could I forget? Across the street, this property. It's always amazed me since I moved in here. Not because it's the way the property lies.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And there is, and I'll show you, there are two huge structures at the front of the property in the woods. And the other day I went in there, and I think I took a picture, and I should have sent it to you, but it wasn't very clear.
Oh.
But when I stand there, I felt, okay, don't enter. So I'm very apprehensive about this, walking further into the woods of this part. I have in the past when I was looking for one of my dogs that got out, but I wasn't thinking. I was worried. I was out trying to, my mind was not on what Bigfoot. I had gone in deeper into the woods, but this property here across the street, I mean, the same thing, the structures, the way they can just, because those pines that you saw and that were intertwined for my neighbor, Norma, those are like 20, 15 feet high. I mean,
Sure.
a tall, skinny pine was pulled down. Oh, I'm just, and there's so much more we haven't talked about, but there's no time.
Well, you can always come back. You're always welcome on the show. You just got to let me know when you want to be here, and
Absolutely.
we'll make it happen. You've been a longtime friend of the show and a great friend to Don and I personally, so we always got room for you.
Yeah, I was really excited that I was able to get you on tonight, and that was it's been a great show, Cindy. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure. And thank you for having me on. So
Well,
Excellent.
we'll do it again.
we will, absolutely, and hopefully very soon. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a wonderful journey. Thank you, Cindy, for being here and making the night incredibly interesting. Your stories are wonderful, and it's always great to hear, the things you've experienced. And we'll go out and create some new adventures as soon as we can. But we hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Friday night. Mrs. Deborah Varner will be joining us.
Deb will be here. Woo!
Deb will be here doing free readings for callers to the show. So
Call early, hold the line.
call early, hold the line, and then we'll be joined by Mr. Brooks Agnew on Saturday night for more science of the paranormal, ladies and gentlemen. So be good, be kind, be nice to each other out there, and we will be here doing the portal thing, getting ready for the next show. So love you all, and have a great
Have
rest
a
of your
good
week.
night. Bye.
Good night.
Hi, thanks.
Okay. Oh, Cindy, you want to let people know how to stay in touch with you as well if they have some, they want to further the discussion about your research?
Yeah, sure. I had an idea of if I could ever organize, my recordings. Maybe if you ever just want to talk about North Idaho sounds, and we can go over discuss the different sounds, like siren sounds, hunting sounds, growls. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good show, don't you?
Absolutely, that would be a lot of fun. How can people stay in touch with what you're doing though? How can they follow you?
Oh, I'm still on there.
You're still on the air. No.
Okay. Well, you can go to Facebook, and I am under Cindy, CINDYN. Bueno, which is Bueno, and then Goodbrake, Good Brake. I know it's long, but that's how you can find me. And I don't post a lot of Bigfoot stuff, so kind of just you follow me or friend me, and I'm from time to time I post stuff up. I've had stuff up, and I found it like people have stolen it, and they'll
Sure.
Yeah.
so I had to get really
Yeah.
unfortunately, but maybe I'll do a page or something. A lot of people have been bugging me, or but that's how you can find me.
All right, my lady. Well, thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back on Friday night. So take care. Until then, be good.
Bye again.
But